rain had been falling all morning, turning the hospital parking lot into a mirror of gray clouds and puddles. Inside, the polished floors gleamed, and the faint scent of antiseptic filled the air. Life went on as usual, doctors rushing by, monitors beeping, and people clutching paper cups of lukewarm coffee, waiting for news that could change everything. Among them was Mr. Jonathan Reed, a man in his late 40s. Tall, composed, yet visibly worn by worry. He was a successful businessman, known for his calm under pressure, but today, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. His only son, Ethan, just 10 years old, was in the ICU after a severe allergic reaction. Jonathan had always believed money could fix things. Until now. The doctors said they needed a rare type of plasma for Ethan's emergency transfusion, and they were still searching for a match. In the corner of the hospital corridor, Martha, the cleaning lady, moved silently from room to room with her mop and cart. She was in her late 50s, small in frame, with kind eyes that hid a lifetime of quiet endurance. She'd seen countless patients come and go, their stories brushing against hers like fleeting shadows. When she entered Ethan's room to tidy up, she paused. The boy lay unconscious, tubes and wires surrounding him, but what caught her eye wasn't the machines. It was the small medical port on his upper arm. Her breath hitched. She took a step closer, her heart pounding. The faint scar beside the port. She knew it. Her mop clattered to the floor as she gasped, Sir, that boy lived with me in the orphanage." Jonathan turned, startled. "What did you say?" Tears welled in Martha's eyes. "The scar by his port. It's from when he fell trying to climb the old orphanage fence. I was there. I looked after him for years." Jonathan frowned in disbelief. "That's not possible. Ethan was adopted from a private agency." But Martha shook her head. "No, sir. I'd never forget those eyes." Flashbacks years ago, in a crumbling building at the edge of the city, Martha had worked as a caretaker for children no one wanted. There was one boy she'd grown especially close to, Liam. A quiet child with a bright smile, who dreamed of being a pilot someday. Then one night, the orphanage caught fire. Chaos erupted. Amid the smoke and screams, several children were rescued, but Liam disappeared. They assumed he hadn't made it out. Martha never forgave herself. But here he was, alive, renamed adopted, and lying before her after all these years. To Jonathan's disbelief melted as Martha showed him an old photo she kept in her wallet. A boy, about Ethan's age with the same eyes, same dimpled grin. Jonathan sat down heavily. This is my son," he whispered. Martha's tears flowed freely. He was everyone's son once. Just then, a nurse rushed in. "Mr. Reed, we found a match for Ethan's plasma. But it's an anonymous donor. The woman's already filling out consent forms." Martha stepped aside as Jonathan followed the nurse. Minutes later, the doctor returned with news the donor was ready, and the transfusion would begin immediately. Hours passed. When it was over, Ethan's vitals stabilized. He would live. Jonathan finally went to thank the donor, only to find Martha sitting on a chair in the waiting room, pale but smiling. "You," he said in shock. She nodded weakly. "I was a match. Life works in strange ways, doesn't it?" Jonathan knelt beside her. "You saved my son's life." She smiled faintly. "No, sir, he saved mine, twice. Once when I found him again, and once when I remembered that kindness never dies. It just finds its way back." 2 weeks later, Ethan recovered quickly. One sunny afternoon, he walked into the hospital garden, holding Martha's hand. She had been promoted to a permanent hospital staff role, thanks to Jonathan's help. But more than that, she'd become part of their family. Ethan often visited her small apartment, where she'd tell him bedtime stories about the old orphanage. And he'd listen in awe, never realizing that the little boy in those tales was him. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan said, "Miss Martha, do you think people meet again for a reason?" She smiled, brushing his hair gently. I don't think it's a reason, dear. I think it's love, finding its way home. 2 Closing message. In a world full of strangers, sometimes fate ties invisible threads between hearts that were never meant to forget each other. Kindness doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be noticed. It simply lives quietly, waiting for the moment it's needed most. And when it returns, it reminds us that no act of love is ever lost. Moral: what you give in kindness may leave your hands, but it never leaves the world.